folks, I have been very critical of the movement for a People's Party since I've heard of this party, but mostly also they've been doing a kind of like a second tour. The People's Party did a cringe tour after the 2016 election, and then around after the 2020 Democratic primary, they started up a second iteration of their cringe tour. And so basically ever since that second iteration of the cringe tour, what they did is they did a People's Party convention in the summer of 2020, and it was basically just a podcast and a fundraising scheme. And then later on that year, they came up with the Force the Vote conspiracy theory, and they continued to fundraise off it. Force the Vote was nothing but a fundraising scheme. It was a grift. It was a stupid conspiracy theory that would basically get people that are rightfully disillusioned with the two-party system, especially the Democratic Party. I hate the Democratic Party. Not a fan at all, right? So it takes people's rightful anger at that system and basically turns it into a waste of time, energy-sucking fundraising machine. And so yesterday I covered Status Coup, has been releasing a lot of stuff about this. Apparently, a lot of people have been going to Status Coup to expose the People's Party. I'd like to say, if anyone wants to expose the People's Party on my show, feel free to hit me up, because I'm down. They basically kind of confirmed that Nick Brana, again, someone who, like 4 or 5 times in this new iteration of the People's Party, again, the 2020 version of the People's Party, right? The post-2020 Force the Vote conspiracy version. Oftentimes, when Nick Brana feels like he's losing control within the People's Party National Board, he will just fire everyone that disagrees with him. That started happening again earlier this week. Paula Jean Swearingen, probably the most high-profile grab for the People's Party, quit and basically publicly started trashing them a couple of days ago. And now it turns out Status Coup has an update to this story. And it turns out the Movement for a People's Party National Chair Nick Brana was under investigation for alleged sexual harassment. Board members purged. So again, folks, Jordan Chariton did a live stream about this that I watched on 2x speed. And so I have a little bit of the details here. But again, this is like a cycle. Is the People's Party has been doing this since 2017. They get a bunch of people that are really energized, and then they kind of waste their time, use them for fundraising, steal all the money, and then fire them. And then it's just like, honestly though, like this is like, it's a pyramid scheme. Like this is like it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, you bring people in as volunteers to do free work, free advertising for your party. You get people to fundraise. And again, also another thing, Nick Brana's dad is the fucking treasury secretary of the People's Party. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, man. Like, just like, let's assume all the best intentions here. Let's assume Nick Brana and his dad are great people and they weren't grifters, right? That's still a bad look. Why would you want your dad to be the fucking treasury secretary? Again, they spent $20,000 on a logo that they never materialized. They sent a graphic design company $20,000 to make them a new logo, and they still use the old logo that they've been using since 2017. Another thing is, how did the People's Party start? Who is Nick Brana? Nick Brana is someone that apparently was a volunteer on the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016, and then he lied about being like a super high-level position in the Bernie campaign. He lied about getting like kicked out and canceled, and that's his like fake origin story. This guy has been lying since the jump. The guy is a liar. This is a pyramid scheme. This is a Ponzi scheme. The Movement for a People's Party is fucking stupid. And also, I just want to say, I called it the whole time. I just, like, am I allowed to say that? Like, you know, I've dealt with all these fucking loser, moron, grifter weirdos and they're like cult of fucking cringe lords saying, oh, you don't support Force the Vote, you're not a real leftist. The whole fucking thing was a grift. Force the Vote was their fundraising grift strategy so that they could wheel people in with Jimmy Dore's program into the People's Party. They could fundraise. Again, who controls the money? Nick Brana and his father. So then they have volunteers for the People's Party that they don't allow to do any work, and then they basically the whole volunteer process of the People's Party is just free advertising. They have a bunch of people pretend and want to do work, and then whenever they get close to actually filing to become a party, Nick Brana steps in and stops them, right? It's just free advertising. That's his advertising arm, are volunteers for the organizing apparatus. And then again, he wheels that all into fundraising. He controls the coffers, and he probably uses that for money laundering. I mean, where did that $20,000 go, right? I'm very curious, right? Who owns that graphic design company that he apparently donated to? But again, it came out also that he's been under investigation for sexual harassment, this Nick Brana character. And again, Status Quo has this whole thing. I would recommend reading this and watching the live stream if you want more in-depth analysis on what's going on here. But basically, the board is constituted of 10 people, 8 of which are not Branas. So 20% of the board are Branas. That's weird. That's strange. Personally, 0% is ideal. But anyway, so Nick Brana was essentially, to my understanding here, and again, the full details have yet to come out. Apparently, someone is who Nick Brana was harassing is going to make a statement on this at some point soon, according to Status Quo. But anyway, so Nick Brana has been under investigation for sexual harassment over the last couple of months, and basically everyone who was investigating him came to the conclusion, yeah, this guy's basically a really fucking creepy motherfucker, but also he's the chair of the board, so what are we gonna do? Let's propose some extremely milquetoast compromise. Like, he was supposed to go to, like, 6 months of sexual harassment sensitivity training or something. Like, I'm sorry, if I found out the board or the main organizer and the main public face of my organization was a fucking sexual harasser, you know what I would do? I would leave instantly. But they went in there, they compromised, sunken cost fallacy. I get it, it happens. You know, you put in so much effort, you don't want to see it fail. So they basically suggest, hey, Nick Brana, you want to go to 6 months of sensitivity training? Nick Brana's like, nah. And he fires everyone. He fired, I think he fired like almost everyone except for a couple members. So now the board only has like 2 or 3 or 4 people left. And again, now the board is like half Nick Brana and his dad, right? So that's interesting. He basically bans anyone from the Slack, and also any organizing tools from criticizing him ever. Now again, Nick Brana has not made a statement on this, but it's very interesting that the People's Party, again, I told you this in December of 2020 when Force the Vote started. When Nick Brana and Jimmy Dore started doing this Force the Vote shit, I told you this is nothing but a grift. This Nick Brana guy is a fucking grifter snake oil salesman, and the only thing that they're doing is fundraising. They are fundraising off of people's rightful dissatisfaction, and they're pointing them in a direction that's going to cause a lot of harm. And that's exactly what happened. You still see people, again, almost, like, what is it, like a year and a half later, still peddling the Force the Vote conspiracy theories. Again, Force the Vote was not a strategy. It was not a movement. It was a very specific criticism of the squad, which, again, I agree with. Most people agree with. They should have had someone run for speaker. I agree with that. I do agree. That said, again, all of these conspiracies around, like, the squad has as much power or more of Joe Manchin. The squad could get any legislation passed. You see these fools like Nico House go out there and say the squad could have gotten us Medicare for all if they wanted to, and they chose not to. Very strange stuff. So again, apparently, Nick Brana, sexual harasser. Now again, I will probably cover this if Nick Brana makes a statement on this, which there's going to need to be a statement. Because they are hemorrhaging support like no other. The other day, or yesterday, I guess, I watched this little podcast called The Vanguard, a very pro-Force the Vote, highly conspiratorial podcast. They love Jimmy Dore, they love Jackson Inkle, that whole crew. At least that's so I thought a year ago. They were positioning themselves as like the Force the Vote conspiracy podcast. I saw a video from them yesterday. They made like a 25-minute video trashing the fuck out of the People's Party. It seems that they're actually switching gears here, and that's good. And my opinion is, like, when you are getting like the most, like, you know, run-of-the-mill, like, supporters of your grift conspiracy to turn against you, that's not a good sign. And where's Jimmy Dore on this? Has Jimmy Dore mentioned this? Is Jimmy Dore also a sexual harasser? Has Jackson Inkle mentioned this? Where are these high-profile figures like Nico House? Has he talked about this? I'm not sure. You know, I looked a little bit yesterday. I didn't see any statements, but maybe in this morning someone made a statement. But again, not so good. I think I summed up this whole piece here, but you can read this and you can go watch Jordan's live stream. He did a good job. He interviewed some members of the People's Party and aired their grievances. So I would definitely, if you're interested in this a little bit at all, it's definitely fun to listen to on 2X them complain about Nick Brana. And I mean, again, I told you so. I told everyone so. The People's Party was a grift from the jump. I've heard people say force the vote's still valid though. I've heard that people anti-People's Party now, but they still think force the vote was a valid. I'm sorry, again, the whole thing was a grift. The whole thing was a fundraising scheme. You got had, you got took. There was no such thing as the Force the Vote movement. The March for Medicare for All was a flop. It's all fundraising. It's all so that they can get money to go on vacation. What do you think the March for Medicare for All was? It was an excuse for Nick Brana to get a bunch of money, fundraising, so he could get a bunch of money and go on vacation. He went to New York. He went to D.C. He went on fucking vacation. Who knows what restaurants he was going to? He was probably living the life, right? He was probably getting some really good fucking hotels. Again, this whole thing is a conspiracy theory designed to steal your money and funnel it into some guy who wants to have power and influence. And again, is also kind of a creep, by the way. So again, more info is going to be coming out about this very soon. Well, I don't know about very soon. I don't know, but I'm going to be following this one as it comes out. So again, People's Party, not so good. And again, they've been saying, oh, we're going to run candidates in 2020. That was the original grift. We're going to have candidates ready for 2020. That didn't happen. They had no candidate in 2020. And then when they did their 2020 People's Party convention, they're like, we're going to get candidates in 2022 and 2024. We're going to shake things up. Now we're finding out whenever people did try to get local candidates, step one of getting a local candidate to run on the People's Party ticket is to make the party exist in the state. Whenever people would try to do that, Nick Brana would step in and say, no. So now they're not running any candidates in 2022. I guarantee you, assuming there still is a People's Party in 2024, Jimmy Dore is going to be the presidential candidate. I'm telling you this now. It could maybe be I guarantee you it's going to be like Jimmy Dore and Jackson Hinkle, or like Jimmy Dore and one of these other grifter loser morons. They're going to run for president on the People's Party ticket. It's going to be embarrassing. But I mean, can they even make it that long? There are hemorrhaging support right now, even from their most loyal supporters. Again, even the Vanguard, a huge Force the Vote conspiracy podcast, was super, super, super disillusioned with them after these reports started coming out. So again, I view that as like a bear weather for how this is going. But also, we should talk about what some other people are saying in regards to the People's Party.